Hello and welcome. This is James Blanchard Cisneros at your service. Today I'll be reading the April 17th Daily Inspirational Post, the short version. It's just a couple paragraphs long. Then I'll center myself for a moment and then I'll make some comments on the post. And I trust that those comments will assist both of us on our journeys. Okay, here we go. Overcoming the idea of death. Your birth was not your beginning, and neither shall your death be your end. As God's creations, extensions, and expressions, we are what He is. And thus if God is eternal, then so too are we. God is love, and thus this is who we are. This is our eternal essence, and the more we make the conscious effort to align with our eternal essence, the more we will realize that this is truly who we are. Today, let us make the conscious choice to begin to overcome the idea of death by first setting aside the ego's illusionary old paradigm. Our eternal essence, our true nature, has nothing to do with dust. And so the truth in us will never return to dust. Our eternal loving essence was long before it chose to be in a physical body, and it will be long after it chooses to leave it. We need not die to start reflecting heaven on earth. Paragraph 2. Today, let us recognize that in every moment we make the choice, consciously or not, between being a representative of death or of eternal life. Let us today practice becoming aware of some of the symbols that represent death and eternal life. Judgment of self and others, frustration, anger, anxiousness, hate, resentment, and revenge. All these are symbols of death, symbols of one who has bought into the ego's mindset as true. Love and all its expressions, such as those of peace, joy, compassion, forgiveness, and charity, are all symbols of the truth in us, of eternal life. Free will allows us to choose in every moment which road to take. Today, if you find yourself on a road that you do not want to be on, do not despair. Simply recall that you have free will, and thus that you can always simply choose once again. In every moment, we have the choice between death, or focusing on death, or that of focusing on eternal life. The symbols of eternal life are those the same as our source, which is love. And so love, our source, eternal life, and all the expressions of that love, which are such things as compassion, kindness, hope, healing, charity. This is all symbols of eternal life. So when we align with them, we are aligning with eternal life, with our source. When we are aligning with the body, that which decays and dies off, and the symbols of the body, which is the ego's mindset, which is fear, which is the temporal, which is judgment of self and others, anger, hatred, revenge, resentment. These are all, when we are supporting these delusions with our time, focus, and energy, we make them appear to be a bigger part of our lives and thus more real. But these are only as real and as big as part of our life as we make them through our time, focus, and energy that we dedicate to them. And so what we're going to do to let go of the illusion is two things. First, we're going to practice forgiveness. And so whatever the body, the symbol of the temporal of death, whatever the body thinks, says, or does, ours or somebody else's, we're going to forgive that. And by forgiving that, we overlook the illusion. By forgiving that, we don't focus on this and we don't make it a bigger part of our life. By forgiving that, we overlook it and start to let it go. Because when we forgive it, We spend less and less time, focus, and energy on it. Second, we're going to practice trusting God more. So within the illusion, certain situations bring out some fear in us. Chaos, conflict, worry, anxiousness. These are all symbols of the ego's mindset, all symbols of death of the body, of what decays and dies. So whenever that happens, we're just going to practice trusting God more. So whenever we're feeling fearful, anxious, worried, or whenever we start to buy into conflict or chaos, we're going to remember that we are God's creations, that we are love, that we are eternal life. And we're here to create as God created, through love. And so that's what we're going to represent. When fear comes, we're going to instead trust God more, and then we're going to come to a place of peace doing that. And peace, being an expression of love, is a symbol of eternal life. Whenever we are judging another person, judging what they say, think, or do, we simply forgive. We forgive, so we spend less time in the illusion, and we come back into a state of peace, which is again a symbol of eternal life. So we do those two things. We forgive what an individual might think, say, or do. That's something other than their loving nature. And we trust God with life, with our fears, worries, conflict, and chaos. We simply say, remind ourselves, we created this life with God, with perfection, with eternal life. And so why do we need to play in this little delusional games of fear and worry and anxiousness and stress? These are only as real as we make them. Focus on them, we make them more real. And your time, focus, and energy that you spend focusing on them, and then they dissolve before your clarity and understanding. And what happens when you do that? Peace results. So peace today is the symbol of eternal life, of your connection, your conscious connection to Source. A lack of peace is a symbol that you're attached to the ego's mindset, to the delusions of the world, to the temporal nature of the ego's little games. And so simply practice coming back to a state of peace and recalling, recalling that when you're in a state of peace, you're doing what you were created to do. You're being an expression of love, of your Source. You're creating as love created, through love. And peace is one of those extensions of love. So you're doing what you came here to do. So you will have a sense of fulfillment, because you're in essence doing what you came here to do. And when you're doing that, your light will shine brighter, and others who are stuck in the illusion, who are lost in the darkness of the ego's mindset, will start to see, just through your example, that there is another way, that they too can overcome the deception of death, the false idea of death. They can let it go. They can focus on being who they were created to be, love, eternal life, and by being at peace, through the acts of forgiveness, through the acts of trusting in God, return to peace, become who you truly are, reflect who you truly are to others, and help others overcome the false concept of death. And by doing so, you reinforce your true nature, and you just reinforce your connection to God, to Source. So it becomes full circle, and then your light shines brighter and brighter, because you have more and more clarity and understanding of who you truly are and what you came here to do and be. Thank you very much for your time. I love you very much. If you'd be so kind as to like, comment, or share this video, it would help with the listening process, and it might help somebody find this information who might find it useful someday. If you'd like to leave me a question, I will be delighted to try and offer a response. And if you could please subscribe to my YouTube channel, I would love to have you in that community. Again, thank you so much for your time. I love you very much. And God willing, we'll see each other tomorrow. Peace.